Oh hey, it's you! Alaska Brian here, and welcome back to the frozen north. Today I thought I'd spin the yarn of the time I decided to get a sunburn. You see, in Alaska, you sometimes end up wearing a jacket in July. People complain about it being hot when it's 63 degrees. So if you see an Alaskan with a tan, you know they just got back from somewhere. Lucky jerks. Often that somewhere is Hawaii. Why Hawaii? Well, even though we couldn't be much more different than those islanders, there's a strange connection between the two of us. We're the two outcast states, the two that are not the lower 48. They're sort of our reverse doppelganger, the flip side to our odd little coin. We Alaskans go there because they have a lot of the things we lack. Warm weather, sunlight, nice beaches, that kind of thing. So in 2018, my wife and I decided to go to Hawaii. Kauai, to be exact. And though I did end up with one of the worst sunburns in my life, we also ended up in the worst rainstorm in American history. We arrived in Kauai April 10th, 2018, giddy with excitement. Kauai is paradise, where perfect rolling waves collapse on postcard beaches. We navigated to Kapa'a, where we plan to spend a few days soaking up beach time, sipping Kona beer, and even sauntering down a few moderate hikes. All of this was a prelude to the main event, a backpack trip on the Kalalau Trail of Kauai's Napali Coast. Nearly any top 10 list of best backpack trips will include the Kalalau Trail. So popular that you have to have a permit. We put in for and received our permit about 9 months in advance. We were scheduled to start on Sunday, April 15th. In the meantime, we did some tourist stuff. Soaking up beach time, sipping coffee, listening to the music of Brother Is spilled from some overhead speaker. We took a catamaran trip and saw the dolphins and the rugged cliffs of the Napali Coast. 2 days before our trip, we arrived in Hanalei on the island's north shore. We planned to car camp, but rain was forecast, so at the last minute, we booked a resort condo in Princeville on a bluff overlooking town. We had no idea how important this decision would be. That day, Friday the 13th, was pretty amazing. Golden lights spilled over Hanalei's half-moon beach. The rugged battlements of the Napali Coast loomed to the west. We spent the entire day swimming in the bathtub ocean. And yes, I got that sunburn I'd been wanting. But we didn't seem to notice as we spent the entire day on that blissful beach, where the gray clouds starting to swell around the mountains in the direction of our future trailhead. In fact, we had no idea that the very spot we were swimming, in less than 48 hours, would be the epicenter for a disaster of historical scale. We were jarred awake that night by our cell phones blaring. I peered at the screen through a bleary eye. Flash flood warning, but we were nowhere near any creeks or rivers, so we muted the phones and went back to sleep. The next morning, we dropped into Hanalei for coffee and breakfast. The Hanalei River had swollen from a small clear stream to a muddy torrent. It wouldn't take much for this creek to get up on the road, I said as we drove over it. Little did we know we had just entered the impact zone with only a few hours to escape. The little town was strangely, ominously quiet. Why were all the shops closed? Where was everyone? Eventually, we found a place to get breakfast, and we took a stroll out on the Hanalei Pier. As we sipped our coffee, coffee-colored waves churned underneath us. Someone was tow-in surfing on the outer reef. Laird Hamilton lives here. Could that be him? The sky was crowded with gray, ominous clouds. It was a far cry from the blue paradise of the day before. It's eerie to look at these videos now, knowing what was about to take place. We should have been fleeing for higher ground. Instead, we casually drove through town and decided on a scouting mission to our future trailhead. But we didn't get far. A creek was flooding over the highway. We waved to the people stranded on the other side. This is probably why Hanalei was deserted. Still oblivious to the full gravity of what was happening and about to happen, we made our way back through town and climbed the hill to Princeville. We settled on a short hike to Queen's Bath, a notorious tidal pool, good for swimming at low tide and calm conditions, but infamous for rogue waves sweeping over unsuspecting bathers. At Queen's Bath, the violence of the ocean was on full display. Massive waves crashed into black basalt. Wind-whipped spray flew into the air like white daggers. We gave the ocean a wide berth, but probably not wide enough. The whole sight felt threatening, ominous. We probably shouldn't have been down there. That evening, still totally ignorant of the tempest now bearing down on us, we shopped for our trip. We went back to our room, packed our packs, and massaged aloe vera into our sunburn. When we laid down to sleep, we were fully expecting that in the morning we were departing on that backpack trip we'd waited for so long. I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully explain what happened that night. Sometimes words are just not enough. We were awoken again by our phones blaring. Another flash flood warning. This time something felt different. It was raining outside, really hard. I've experienced heavy rains in the mountains of Colorado and then later in the temperate rainforest of Alaska, but nothing prepared me for this. Water was gushing outside, and I poked my head out the front door to see what was happening. A stream was pouring down the outdoor staircase, and I remember thinking that someone on the floor above us had overturned a water cooler, only it never stopped, cooler after cooler for the entire night. And it wasn't just rain. I've experienced maybe a dozen flashbang lightning strikes in my entire life. You know the kind. The type where there's no gap between flash and crash. We experienced at least that many in just a couple hours. The thunder was so thick and constant, in fact, I remember being scared to touch the wall, thinking that the lightning might somehow reach through to get me. When day broke, the view was amazing. A lake had formed on the fairway of an adjacent golf course, and all around sinkholes had opened up like pockmarks from some artillery campaign. A sinking feeling hit us, and we knew that the Kalalau Trail was not going to happen. No backpack trip, no place to stay. We opted to try to get another night at the condo, but when we went down to the lobby, it was abandoned. The rain stopped, and we ate breakfast. Word reached us that the highway was closed in both directions due to flooding. We were trapped. We made our way out to an overlook where we could look down on the valley below, and we stared in stunned silence. The Hanalei River, little more than a big creek 2 days before, now completely filled the entire valley. It must have been half a mile wide. It was hard to believe this was even the same place. The rain started again. No, not rain. Deluge. In fact, 8 more inches would fall in the next 2 hours. We heard about a Red Cross shelter that had opened up at a church up the highway, but getting there was no easy task. It was raining so hard, the wipers of our rental car couldn't keep up. Lightning strafed the land all around us, and wind whipped and twisted the palm trees. The highway had turned into a river. This is how people get swept away, I realized. Somehow, eventually, we arrived at the church parking lot, and we felt safe, for now. What a day! For the next 2 hours, we huddled in the church as the storm raged all around us. The good people of Princeville, and even some tourists, had shown up to take care of us and the other storm refugees. They cooked for us, gave us inflatable mattresses. We made the most of a bad situation by swapping stories and playing guitar. By the time evening came, the rain slackened to a drizzle and then stopped. The storm was over. Monday morning, we finally escaped. We were speechless, exhausted, and disappointed. We would later find out that dozens of people were stranded on the Kalalau Trail and had to be rescued by helicopter. Had we pulled our permit for even a day or two earlier, we would have had to suffer through that horrendous storm in a tent, only to be rescued a week later. The Kalalau Trail was so badly damaged, in fact, it'd be over a year before it reopened. The storm of April 2018 unleashed an unbelievable disaster on Kauai's north shore. Hanalei and the surrounding communities bore the brunt of it. The Hanalei River leapt out of its banks, swelling from a mere 350 cubic feet per second on Friday as we swam at the beach, to 31,000 at 4 a.m. on Sunday morning. That was when the river rose so high that the gauge was destroyed. Who knows how high it actually got that night. The town of Hanalei was inundated with chocolate-hued floodwater. Mudslides peeled from the mountains west of town, tearing the highway with them. Many buildings in town were flooded or destroyed. Somehow, luckily, not a single person was killed. It was later confirmed that a rain gauge on the west side of Hanalei, a mere 2 miles from where we slept that wild night, recorded 49.69 inches of rain in a 24-hour stretch. That's more than 4 feet of rain. This shattered the US record by more than 7 inches, a record that stands to this day. Despite our disappointment, our trip wasn't ruined. We spent the next week hopping from town to town, basking in the sand on sunny beaches, and trudging the mountains of Kauai. And though we didn't get to hike the Napali Coast, we returned home with a story worth telling, and an experience we'll never forget. We haven't returned to Kauai, not yet anyway, but we will one day. And hopefully we'll be there under the bright tropical sun, getting a sunburn. Thanks for spending a little time and letting me tell the tale of my wildest weather story. Don't forget to poke that like and subscribe button if you want more adventure tales and vlogs from the frozen north. Until then, stay wild, stay interesting, and I'll catch you next time.